Well, we're live, and boy, oh boy, there's never a dull moment. Welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join the 53,000 plus Bengals fans. Blah 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 blah. You know the spiel. You know the spiel. But we're live here, and we're live because Trey Hendrickson decided to travel up to Cincinnati today and meet with Bengals brass and get permission to seek a trade. And ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, I'm going to get to a bunch of your comments and your reactions, and I'm going to answer a bunch of your questions. And at the same time, I feel like I am compelled to start with me. And I should start with me because I have been the one that has said I'm holding the Bengals to a certain expectation this offseason. And that expectation has been sign Jamar, sign T, sign Trey. Has been sign your big three and add around them. Sign your big three and add around them. That has been my standard. You've called me out on Twitter. I've seen some comments on YouTube. People have disagreed and gotten annoyed and all of those things. And look, this is the first time this offseason where I look at it, I'm like, man, the Bengals, because they're in position. They're in position to not screw it up. And yet it's really, really hard for me to envision a Bengals defense in 2025 that is not just better than last year. Last year's not the standard. Last year sucked. Last year was a train wreck. No one compares it to last year. A Super Bowl caliber defense where you're taking away their best player in Trey Hendrickson. And so this feels like a huge failure. That's what it feels like. You have the assets, you have the cap space, you have the cash, you have the resources to keep these guys. And I know Trey's 30. I've said all along, give him a 2-year extension. The Maxx Crosby deal is full of fake money. I saw it today. And so to give him permission today, it doesn't mean he's going to be traded. It doesn't mean that the Bengals are screwed, and there's ways to navigate it. And so all of that is true. And we're going to cover all of that on the stream. But since I'm the guy that said, well, yeah, guys, there's plenty of money. There's plenty of cap. There's plenty of cash. They can do it. And Trey's probably third. It's going to take time to get Trey done, but you're going to get Jamar done and you're going to get T done. And then for this to happen, well, it feels like a failure. It feels like a failure. And it's going to feel even more like a failure if they don't somehow get a bunch of draft picks right. But you know what's crazy? Is if you keep Trey, it's one less thing you got to get right. It's one less thing that you got to do to have that championship level defense. It's one less, and all it is you give him $30 million. He wants a third year. Like that's it. That's the issue. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the issue for what it's worth. But what I do know is Trey Hendrickson loves Cincinnati. We'll tell everybody that he loves Cincinnati. Trey Hendrickson led the NFL in sacks, 17.5 last year. He's consistent, had 17.5 sacks in 2023, 35 sacks over the past 2 years. And yes, I don't think Trey Hendrickson is as good or as valuable as some of these other pass rushers getting huge money. Sacks are one metric, not the only metric. But does he deserve huge money? Absolutely he does. Absolutely he should get big money. And that's why today is so disheartening, frustrating, annoying, because you have a really, 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 really good player. Last week, Duke Tobin, I will pull up the quote because I want to make sure I get it right. Duke Tobin met with me and the rest of the Bengals beat writers. Paul Dehner Jr. was the one, I believe, that asked him the question, are you open to trading Trey? Here's what Duke said. I don't know. Talking about being open to trading. Our preference with Trey is to have him on our football team because we want him. So I never really talked about open preferences for trading guys because all that does is take on a life of its own. And it's not something I want to do because I want Trey on our football team. He's under contract. We're looking we're looking to pay him what we believe will be really good future years. And we see him as not falling off in his career. And so that's what we're actively trying. And if we're getting to the point we're actively trying to trade him, maybe I'll give you a call, he said very snarkily. I wonder if Duke gave Paul a call. Probably not. But the point is the same. It feels like I just saw a comment, and I'm going to get to comments, I promise. If you're just joining, this is just the beginning. It feels like a fumble here. It feels like a fumble. By the way, I'm going to paint the path to where it's not a fumble. There are so many ways, and I think in life you have to be able to be flexible and adjust on the fly and be able to handle different things and maneuver a certain way. And oh, this happens. All right, we'll react this way, and then bend and flex and change course very quickly. And so the Bengals can do that, and they can have a really good defense in 2025. I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying it's just harder when you say, "Oh, NFL sack leader." You have permission to seek a trade. Like, I'll spoiler, because I'm going to get to the compensation part in a second. He's not bringing back 2 first-round picks. You're not getting a top 10 pick for Trey Hendrickson. I mean, if you do, great. But guess what? You're probably not. And so that's why I've always been in the pay Trey camp. Like, it's one thing if you're like, oh, well, you can get a top 10 pick and find the next great edge rush or find the next. It's going to be a roll of the dice at 17. This draft is going to be a roll of the dice at 17. So if they get insert whatever pick you're thinking of or picks you're thinking of, rolls of the dice. And are they going to be ready right now? And so, yeah, today is a very frustrating day, especially for someone, and I'm gonna get into the compensation part of this in a second, especially for someone. And if you're just joining us, I'm James Rapien. Welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. For someone that said, yeah, the expectation is to get Jamar, T, and Trey done. It's a reasonable expectation because that's what high-end Super Bowl caliber franchises would do. It's March 6th. It's not March 12th. It's not April 12th. It's not July 12th. It's March 6th. And this is happening. It's just, I'm going to take a drink of water, but this is just ridiculous. It is. And it's frustrating. And hold on, I'm going to hit mute. I got myself choked up here. I'm kidding. But the point is the point. It is one of those things where I was in my mindset, I think should be what the Bengals are thinking, which is how do you win a Lombardi in 2025? That's it. Obviously, you have to think about the future, but in reality, it is 2025. How do you do it? And it's really hard for me to envision a scenario where not paying Jamar, T, or Trey, all 3 of those guys, where you could do it. Now, you can, and let's get into that part of it. What do you think you can get for Trey? I was talking with some people at the Combine, media folk, not Bengals folk, like, well, what would you trade Trey for? And I think that's where it's going to surprise a lot of people. Like, the Bengals aren't getting 2 1s. Let's throw that out. Like throw it away, not throw it out there to you. 2 1s aren't happening. Is a 1 happening? Maybe you get the Washington Commanders 29th overall pick. 29th overall? You feel good about that? Do you? Do you say, yeah, baby, Super Bowl in 2025? Do you? Because you don't, do you? You don't. I'll be honest with me. You don't. I don't. I'm not saying that. I'm not thinking like, all right, well, I better book my hotel for Santa Clara now and make sure I have a flight because, man, oh, man, they got the 29th pick and they saved this money. And so here's what I will say. The reason why the Bengals gave Trey permission to seek a trade now is because they know that they're going to need even more cap space, I would imagine, because he's making 16-ish million this year. He had the signing bonus. It's basically $21 million. Yes, $16 million in cash flow, though, which is what all the national people are using. But $21 million salary this year. You shed his cap, you trade him, you get a pick back. Let's even go crazy and say you get the Bears 39th overall pick and 41st overall pick. Let's say you get those 2 picks, which might be the best case scenario. I think it's a little high. I don't think they get that. But let's just assume that that's it, right? You get 2 2s. I'd feel pretty good about that. But the only way you feel pretty good about that is if you couple the trade compensation with free agent activity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, part of what today is, and I'm going to get more into the trade compensation. I'm going to get into the comments. The Bengals have officially entered the Josh Sweat free agent sweepstakes. He is the top free agent edge rusher. He is 28 years old. He was a big part of the Eagles defense last year. He's Pro Football Focus's 10th ranked edge rusher. And he's someone that I think the Bengals are going to have to kick the tires on now. You look at him, and he's not a dominant edge. Had 8 sacks this past year, has 43 career sacks, has spent his entire career in Philadelphia, was a Pro Bowler in 2021. His best sack season was in 22 with 11. That's it. So now you're saying, all right, well, if you can get, let's say, the 29th pick from the Commanders, because I do think both twos, maybe you get the 39th pick from the Bears and you move up from 49 to 41 with the Bears, and that's the trade compensation for Trey. Who knows? But let's just say it's the 29th pick. Would you rather have Trey on a new deal or Josh Sweat, the 29th pick, and some extra cap money? Some extra money, extra maneuverability to maybe go after a defensive tackle at free agency. And this is how I think, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm the Bengals and I'm looking at this and it's like, oh, well, we're trading Trey and age is a factor. Well, then go out and get one of the top defensive linemen in this class. What I would do if I'm them is I would be in the Milton Williams and again, this is very pie in the sky. I think paying Trey is very, very more in line with what the Bengals would do than do this. But if you're trading Trey and you're shedding his money, you're getting Josh Sweat, or you're getting into the Josh Sweat sweepstakes, go into the Philly defensive line sweepstakes, go get Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. Because I do think that this is planned by the Bengals to a certain degree. Monday is the legal tampering period. Monday is when you can start signing guys. You want to know if you're keeping Trey or not by then. So then you can decide, if we're in win now mode, this is what we need to do. And so if it were me and I'm trading Trey, which again, I wouldn't do. You're just joining us for 10 minutes in. I wouldn't trade Trey. I would have paid Trey. I probably, if it were me, would already have T. Jamar and Trey done, to be quite honest. Now, that's me. That's not the Bengals. I expected them to get these deals done. I wasn't expecting to do this live stream today. And yet here we are. But if you want to paint the picture of how do you get better, and that's how I think, how are you going to be a better football team in 2025 and a championship level football team in 2025? Well, it sure as hell isn't selling me on the 17th overall pick replacing Trey Hendrickson or the 29th overall pick replacing Trey Hendrickson. So maybe the Bengals are saying, you know what? We're going to take this 30-year-old asset. We're going to get a future asset for him that we can cash in April. We're going to use his money, and we're going to pull in a Josh Sweat, who's probably going to cost a little bit less. And we're going to use big money and go get a Milton Williams. Like, that's how I would think. I don't think that's how they're thinking. That's what's so frustrating about this. Because it would be really easy to say, instead of spending $32 to $33 million on Trey, you go spend 42 and you get Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. And you get a pick for Trey. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Doesn't it, right? If you're talking about average annual value and there's cash and cap and all that stuff, but 42 for Williams and Sweat? Let's go high. Let's go 44 for Williams and Sweat, or 33 for Trey. And you get the 29th overall pick from the Commanders. You can sell me on that, but I just don't think that that's there. I don't think that that's happening. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. And if they go that route, the point is I don't think this is the time to crash out, as the kids say. But it is time to be like, man, what the hell are y'all doing? Because if you're not doing that, if you're not saying we're going to take this asset that we really like, but he wants more than we're willing to pay, we're going to turn it into an asset, a really valuable asset in the draft. Plus, we're going to use that capital, plus other capital that we have, and add two key pieces, a defensive tackle and a defensive end. Because they're not paying huge money to guards. I'll spoil it right now. They were never playing Trey Smith. So the tag that Kansas City placed on him didn't impact the Bengals at all. So maybe that's the plan. Maybe that's the logic. And if so, I can see it. But ladies and gentlemen, really, really hard for me to see the vision here. Unless it's that. The reason I pointed out that scenario is because it would be very direct. It'd be very obvious. You would have already been putting that plan in place. Just to give you an idea, Pro Football Focus projects Josh Sweat to make $54 million over 3 years. It's $18 million per year. I naturally bump up those projections by $1 million or $2 million. So I would say 3 for 60, right? That's Josh Sweat. Milton Williams is the 17th ranked free agent, projected 3 for 63. Could you get him 4 for 80, kind of like Osa did in Dallas? Who knows? But it's probably a bit more than that. But outside of that, paint the picture where the Bengals defense isn't better. I'm not saying that. It's easy to be better than a crappy defense that they were last year. But is championship caliber in 2025 without Trey Hendrickson. Is disruptive consistently without Trey Hendrickson. And you know what you're going to say? I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, well, it's going to be the path to that, James, is them drafting well. And my argument has always been, great. I hope you draft well. You know how much better it is if you draft well and put pieces around Trey Hendrickson? You know how much life is just so much easier for Al Golden if he's got Trey Hendrickson plus all of these young pieces that are versatile and can move around and get pressure and are athletic and can get off the edge and then can cover and can run and can do all these things. That's what I keep coming back to. So there are scenarios where the Bengals can get better by trading Trey, but they are limited. They involve spending huge money. They involve spending huge money on outside free agents, including one who's about to be 28. It's not like Josh Sweat is some spring chicken from a pass rush standpoint. He's a 7-year vet going into his 8th season. And so that's where I'm at with this, is it's like, damn it, Bengals. Like you could have gotten these 3 done, added pieces around, and it's really easy if you do that. If you get T, Jamar, and Trey done, you add some solid pieces in free agency, and you have a pretty good draft. Not an elite draft, just a pretty good draft. I'm not saying you find the next Jamar Chase impact rookie, but you find the next Amarius Mims that starts and plays at a high level at 17. And then you find a really serviceable second-round pick, and then you go down the line, and you do that, and it's easy to see the path to them being a championship team. You take away Trey, and now you have this huge void. And the only way I'm comfortable replacing that void is if they spend huge money on guys that I never really expected them to spend on. You really think they're going after Milton Williams, the top defensive tackle, who's projected to make 20+ million per? And maybe they are. Maybe they are. Maybe the Josh Sweat, Milton Williams plan, they were like, man, if Trey really wants this 33, 34 million, I don't think he was asking for Maxx Crosby money, even after the Crosby deal. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe the Bengals just get way more in return for Trey than I think they will. I think the 29th pick is probably the ceiling. Like a low first-round pick, a pick in the 20s. Maybe you get the 2-2s from Chicago. I'd be surprised if they did both. Now, I am seeing a bunch of, oh, well, this guy should demand a trade or that guy should. No. Let's relax. It isn't that. Jamar's probably shrugging his shoulders at that news, to be honest, about the trade news. And the other part here is, and this is where it could get really messy, if they don't have a plan. And that's why I mentioned the plan of them getting better without Trey and trading Trey and all those things. Because if they trade Trey Sunday and then Monday by 2, they have Milton Williams locked up, and by Monday at 8, we're going live because they just got Josh Sweat, well, then they clearly had a plan. But you better have a plan here, because if you're worried that Trey isn't worth what you think he's worth, and now you're letting him negotiate with all these teams, and you think you want a 1, or you want a 1 for him, for example, or a 1 and a 3. I don't know what the Bengals want. I always assume it's more than what is realistic. But you got to be willing to move him now, because otherwise, like, let's say he finds a deal that he likes from a team. He's like, hey, found a team that's willing to trade, negotiate. And the Bengals are like, no, well, we want way more. Then it just gets messier. It gets uglier because Trey's this close to getting his money, the money he wants, the contract he wants. And so you better know what you're going to be able to get, at least to an extent. Have a good idea of it. Otherwise, this could get really, really messy. And that's all part of the plan. So this could be a really smart, put together plan by the Bengals, where they said, you know what? We really wanted to keep Trey, but this is what we're going to do instead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 5-step plan. It's going to be great. And the defense is going to be better. But I think that that's highly unrealistic. If you're just joining us, I led off this live stream, and we'll get to your comments in a second. I'm extremely disappointed in this outcome, because the Bengals should have been able to get all 3 of these deals done. I expected them to get all 3 of those deals done. And I mean Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson. And it doesn't look like they're getting Trey Hendrickson done now, obviously. And that's frustrating, because most teams would have just gotten it done. A championship level team with a championship level window in a spot that they've never been in franchise history. You look over my shoulder right here, my right shoulder. You see that book, Enter the Jungle? I did every single season in Bengals history. They've never had a consistent window where they've been a Super Bowl contender. And by a window, I mean a window. Think about it. 81, they get to the Super Bowl. That ended very quickly. Had a new quarterback by the mid-'80s, right? 88, they get to the Super Bowl. Well, the 90s are right there. It happens fast. Joe Burrow went to the Super Bowl in year 2. AFC Championship game year 3. Elite quarterback in his prime. Jamar Chase is going to be the best receiver in Bengals history. For my money, already is. Like, now's the time. Now's the time to push everything in and set up the franchise for championship contention, period. Year in and year out. And I thought the easiest way to do that, the most logical way to do that, would be to pay Trey, build around to him. When he's not the same Trey in a year or 2 or 3, well, you got to draft well. You'll have pieces to replace him, and he can be edged out, and new guys can come in. Now you have to find that replacement now. Much, much harder. Much, much harder. All right. Coughing like crazy. Andrew, you want to get to some comments? Is that something we should do? You have comments ready for us?
Sure, yeah. Let's see what we want to do here.
Andrew's been hanging out in the background watching me cough my head off here.
That's right.
Go ahead.
That's right. First of all, I just want to I want to throw this out there, and this is kind of.
By the way, you didn't. Andrew Fox Miller is here. Yay, Andrew Fox Miller is here.
Applauding.
I should have introduced you. Yeah. There you go. All right. Hey, do you like that plan? Do you like that plan? By the way, like, let's just say the Bengals gave me control. Mm-hmm. They gave me control. They said you have to trade Trey. You have to. Trey to the Commanders for pick 29. Okay. Then you go sign Milton Williams, and you go sign Josh Sweat. So you're talking about the top edge rusher, the top defensive tackle.
Sure.
Again, stuff that the Bengals don't do.
Right.
But what you on board with that then? Basically $11-ish million more per year to get both of those guys, plus you get a first-round pick versus just keeping Trey. Could you see the vision there? That's really one of the only visions where it makes sense outside of just being home run drafters, which you could say that about any team ever. Yeah, if you draft elite guys at any draft, you're gonna have elite players. Well, duh.
Yeah. I mean, I would be fine with them having a plan that works out in that way. That exact plan, fine. But you and I both know it seems too logical. It would just come together too perfectly for this to actually happen for the Bengals.
It would happen for me.
Okay, let me.
Just,
and this
all
is
they have to do is call me right now and get it done.
this is sort of a collection
You don't
of.
think I could convince Josh Sweat to come to Cincinnati? Easy.
No, I don't think you could.
Easy.
Okay, easy.
Yeah.
All right, let's get him on a episode of End
I
of the Jungle.
convinced you to come on a live stream. I
Yeah.
convinced you to come on a live stream at 4 p.m. on a Thursday, and you were behind the scenes for 22 minutes.
That's right.
You don't think I could get Josh Sweat to come to Cincinnati for $20 million per year? Easy. Dude, are you serious? Easy.
Let me ask you this, and this will kind of reflect a lot of the comments that I queued up. You know, what's the precedent here with this move when we say permission to seek a trade? You know, it isn't necessarily we're giving you an extension, obviously. It isn't we're losing you to free agency. He's not a free agent. It's Trey and or his agent making noise. They're prioritizing Jamar and T, I would hope. So they're encouraging Trey, in this case, and his agent to ask around. Like, who's to say they don't circle back and the experiment pays off in the Bengals' favor? Like, again, I would be fighting hard to extend Trey, but if there was a plan without Trey, I would assume it has something to do with, a play like Trey being a player in his age 30 season that might return some significant value, whether it's player picks or both, to speak to your scenario there. Maybe there is a plan. I don't know. But again, going back, I guess, to my original question, the precedent of that particular move. Hey, go ahead and ask around. But Bengals have control no matter what, right? What do they have to lose aside from a more disgruntled Trey Hendrickson and Trey Hendrickson's representation?
That's what I mean. It could get really messy because let's say Atlanta's reportedly interested, right? Let's say Atlanta says, man, you get Trey Hendrickson in the Mercedes-Benz Dome, or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I think it's called. We're going to give you Trey. We're going to give you a 3-year, $120 million extension. And then Trey's like, hey, Atlanta's going to give me this. Let's work out a deal here. And Atlanta says, Bengals, we love Trey. We're going to pay him big money. We're going to give you a 3rd-round pick. The Bengals are going to say, bleep you, right? That's what they're going to say. Bleep you, and they're going to hang up. Well, Trey's going to be like, no, hey, work this out. And what if the Falcons are just like, that's good. 3rd-round pick. He's 30. We're paying him a lot of money. Give me a 3rd. And now it's awkward. And so that's what I mean by the plan. Like, you better know when you sign off on this, you better understand that either one, you tell Trey's representatives, this is it. You talk to teams that are willing to pay this price. Or 2, you know exactly what Trey's going to command. You have an idea of what teams are going to be interested and how much is going to be there. And maybe it is a 1st-round pick. You know, maybe that's it. Because you can, if you're the Bengals, you could say, all right, well, this is the offer, or these are the rules here. Otherwise, you could negotiate with these teams, and they're wasting their time if they're not willing to give up a 1st-rounder for you, or multiple 2s. I think the Bears scenario, if you could get 39 and 41 for Trey, that feels pretty darn good. That feels better than just a late 1st for me, because I think you could get some pretty darn good players in that top 45 or so of this draft.
You just mentioned it. Maybe there is confidence that, hey, good luck, because we know exactly where we stand and we feel we're in line with what is a really good, or maybe perhaps they think the best situation for Trey. I don't know. But what we all know, everyone here in the chat that's paid attention over the years, and you, of course, James, and the negotiations, ones especially that didn't quite happen. When reports come out, you hear how far off they are. Now, maybe there was some balling going on in the past, maybe intentionally, but I don't have any evidence. I feel like not a strong case that the Bengals are going to be fully aware and confident that whatever they're putting on the table for Trey is going to be competitive if they let him shop around. I don't know.
I'd be stunned, because it's essentially free agency. Now, it's not totally, but you're trying to wow Trey here. You know there are other teams interested. You know that he's clearly in for the money. He wants to get a big deal. And so that's what's tough, is the Bengals are not going to have the best offer here. They're just not. And they're probably not going to have the 2nd best offer or the 3rd best offer. And are they going to match those? I mean, maybe that's their plan. It was like, it won't be that much more. Who knows? That's just playing with fire, though, because again, the trade compensation part of it. But they might have given Trey's agent, hey, if they're willing to at least pay a first round pick, negotiate with them. If not, don't do it. Maybe it's a top 40 pick. Who knows? Who knows what it is? But man, oh man, it's really hard for me. It was so easy for me to in my head build a team around a big five of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, and Orlando Brown Jr. Like it's really easy to see how Logan Wilson and these guys, the quarterback room could bounce back. And you add a couple pieces to the linebacker room and the defensive line, and you add a couple of guards. You pay Mike Gesicki, or you figure out tight end. Like it was really easy to see the path to them being awesome. Now it's like, okay, so let's say the Bengals have another first round pick. Unless you're signing proven guys to replace Trey, and even if you went with Josh Sweat, the number one edge rusher in free agency, he's not Trey Hendrickson. He's not close to Trey Hendrickson. Not as many pressures, not as many sacks, not as many disruptions. Good player. Someone you want on your roster, but you're still downgrading there. And so that's what's interesting to me is like, I just always thought that the Bengals would say, Trey, all right, here's 2 for 56, 28 million per. Then yesterday, the Maxx Crosby deal happened. And I'm like, okay, well, they'll probably get him 2 for 60. And that'll be that. But for them, they gave him permission today to seek a trade. The thing that better be the case, Andrew, and the 1,400 plus people watching, better be the case. This better be a planned thing. Better not have been and by the way, the Bengals aren't this way. So I'd be surprised if it was because of this. But Trey says, oh, well, I've been good to you guys. You could be good to me. Please let me seek permission for a trade. What? Like, unless you have this awesome plan where you know you're going to get a first, you know you're going to get premium picks, you know how you're going to attack free agency to make your defense championship caliber, then what the heck are you doing? It's really tough to replace. And we've seen this throughout Bengals history. They are real outside of quarterback. Somehow they're really good at replacing their quarterback with another good one outside of the 90s. But you look at the stars they've had, and it's been a real struggle to replace even really good players at times. You know, Andrew Whitworth, they didn't really replace Andrew Whitworth till they got Orlando Brown Jr. Marvin Jones, they didn't really replace Marvin Jones until they got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Think about that. Think about how many failed picks was in there. And that includes John Ross. Like, it goes on and on. Cornerback. Jonathan Joseph leaves in free agency, and then they go get Dre Kirkpatrick and Darqueze Dennard and William. You spend all of these first rounders on corner, and Jonathan Joseph was good for most of those years. So yeah, it's track record and everything. It's just really tough to replace a player like Trey, and I don't really see why anyone would be happy with this news, because it's a tough scenario, tough to envision the scenario where they're much improved in 2025, so much so that they're a Super Bowl contender without Trey Hendrickson.
All right, James, and chat for that matter, put me in my place if I'm out of line with this question here. I mean, but, or observation. The one thing that does kind of rub me the wrong way on this, and you gave the hypothetical there, like the scenario of maybe Trey was like, hey, can I ask around? And if they're like, yeah, go ahead. I have a bit of a problem with that, but okay. But my observation is, doesn't it feel there's a sort of vibe of like dismissiveness? I don't want to say laziness, but like of like, yeah, go ahead and do the work, Trey. You see if you can find yourself a trade. Meanwhile, Raiders are moving around. They're re-signing and extending their guys. Trades are happening. I don't think the players are the ones coordinating them a lot of times. Sometimes they are. But in this case, someone like Trey Hendrickson, it just feels off-putting to me that they're like, yeah, we're busy right now. Trey, if you want to do the work, go ahead. You go ahead and do the work. It's like when my kids come to me and they're like, I'm bored. I'm like, well, it's not my job to figure out what to do for you. So you go ahead and do it. But like, that's what they're doing to Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's by the way, Joey Bosa is not better than Trey Hendrickson. I happen to look at comments there. Rough. All right, Fuzzy Balls. Appreciate you. Love the name. Would you trade T to Jacksonville for the 5th overall pick, which could be paired with the other first round pick to move up to number 1 overall? I would take Travis Hunter in that scenario, and so would the Bengals, right? Right? That's what they would do? Okay. Just making sure. That's probably what they would do. Just spoiler alert. Maybe it's Abdul Carter. I think it would probably be Travis Hunter. Do you really want that? I mean, I would love that. I think that would be pretty cool.
We can complain about Bengals and draft and development in the last 5 years all we want, but in the last 5 years, I can say they're 2 for 2 on their top 5 overall picks. So,
Shocker. They're really good at drafting first and fifth. I
Can't
mean,
miss
Joe Burrow's
prospects.
the biggest no-brainer ever. The Falcons are idiots, and the 49ers are idiots for not taking Jamar Chase. Yeah, I mean, obvious. But I think, and the Jets for that matter, right? That was the Jets taking Wilson. Oh, good Lord. Imagine passing on Jamar Chase, dominated at 19. It was a no-brainer. I think to answer your question in all seriousness, if the Bengals got offered the 5th overall pick for T. Higgins, they'd have to really consider it. They'd probably take it. I mean, that's a lot. That's pretty valuable. Now, they plan on paying T, and I think there's part of this that is in there as well. It's like, oh, well, we're paying T, 26, we're paying Jamar. We're going to get younger, faster, sleeker on defense, all of those things. Still got to be good on defense. And that's what matters. They have the cap space. They have plenty of cash. They have all the things to keep Trey, T, and Jamar. With Burrow, with Orlando, with all these other contracts. But yeah, I mean, the 5th pick for Trey would be fun. Never happened, but the 5th pick for Trey would be fun.
I want to get this out there. There's been so many similar comments. This is an older comment I kind of saved for later, but there's so many of these that are echoing this, and it's all about what's Joe Burrow thinking right now? How upset is Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow's going to leave this team. Joe Burrow's had enough. He's fed up. I understand where it's coming from, obviously, but there's a lot of that being thrown around. And regardless, if we can't possibly know for sure, obviously, you can't possibly know for sure, James, but I don't think we're there yet.
No, I mean, I don't think. Well, if you want him to get there, don't get T done. Like, we're not there yet, but this doesn't help. Because Joe isn't dumb.
Right.
If I gave Joe truth serum, if I called Joe right now and I gave Joe truth serum and I said, hey, can this defense be a Super Bowl caliber defense without Trey Hendrickson realistically in 2025? What do you think he's going to say? You think me saying that is something that would be news to the players? The defense stunk last year. They stunk. They got beat up. Trey was the only guy worth a damn. I remember talking to Orlando Brown Jr. 2 years ago when he got here, and he's like, man, dealing with that guy in games sucks, but dealing with him in practice sucks too. He's just so good. He's saying that. In Orlando knows ball. He loves ball. And so Trey's like this high-end player, high-end pass rusher. And so you lose that. Joe's pissed. Joe can't be happy. Joe's supporting Trey because he wants Trey to get paid. I know that. I'm sure of it. At the same time, oh no, Joe's watching this very, very closely. You better get T done. Maybe we'll do another live. Maybe that's what it is T's close. Because good Lord, if T doesn't get done and Trey is traded, Joe Burrow is going to lose his mind, and it will not be pretty. I have no doubt that he will be very, very frustrated with that if those two things don't, or if those two things happen. They cannot. And so T. Higgins might get an extra $1 million or $2 million. Hey, T, if you're watching, ask for an extra $1 million or $2 million because they better keep you. They don't really have a choice right now.
I mean, here's what we know. As of today, as far as a roster is concerned, on paper, nothing's changed. But I think the comments here are a reflection of this, but it's definitely that whole, as Bengals fans, it's like, okay, we've seen this movie before. We know how this movie ends. And I get it. I understand. Yeah, and that's a concern that's been thrown around, of course, naturally, and I understand. I mean, it's optics of potential players that are wanting to join your team. I think there's always going to be that factor that Joe brings, of course, that will more or less probably trump a lot of things when it comes to getting paid if people are willing to work with the team on these deals. But it's reasonable on either end. Like if Trey's feeling like this is what I'm worth, and I understand, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Especially on that defense from last year.
Oh my goodness. What just came in? Holy moly. Yeah, let's finish with Antonio here. Yeah. It's one thing it just doesn't make sense not to reward your guys. I agree with you. I mean, that's what's really frustrating. I know there were guys last year that were like, if Jamar can't get paid, I sure as hell am not getting paid. And that was last year. And I get it. Those deals can be complex, but that should have gotten done, which would have made Trey getting done this year probably a little easier. All right, we got a big one there. Let's answer that.
Yep. Get it now.
Ty, appreciate you. Holy moly. Biggest super chat ever. Thank you, Ty. This, by the way, we have 1,500 people here. The legal tampering period starts next week. Andrew and I plan on going live multiple times throughout the week. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate your support. Ty, really, really appreciate your support. Could this be a situation where Trey was asking for more than Crosby? The Bengals weren't going to give him that. So they let him look at what other teams are going to give him to show him most likely he isn't getting more than Crosby. It could be.
Yeah.
It totally could be. And I think it's a good point. Because let's say the Bengals went to 30. And I know Trey loves Cincinnati and they went to 30 million per year. And he's like, they're like, go see what you could get. We don't think you're getting 36 or 37. And he's like, okay. And he gets 33. Then he has to ask himself, all right, well, do I want 33 million per to go to whatever, Washington or Atlanta? I keep mentioning those two teams because I know that those two teams are interested. I'm not sure who else is interested. There might be other teams since we started this live stream that have been mentioned. But do I want to do that? Or do I just want to stay in Cincinnati where I know it for 30? That could be the case. It could be. I get it. I would also say, like, if I'm Trey, personally, if I'm Trey, if this is the scenario, I mean, it's not my money, right? But if you really wanted to be here and they got close-ish to where you'd be considering it, do you really need to push for the 37? Why not meet them in the middle at 31 and a half or 32? Or you know what I'm saying? So, but that could be the case. By the way, I'll break the news right now. Heck, I've talked to Trey about this. I would if he wanted to talk to me about it. I'm sure he does not want to talk to me. He just wants to talk to his agent and anybody else. But there is absolutely no way that Trey Hendrickson gets that Maxx Crosby deal on paper. Now, that Maxx Crosby deal was pretty fake. NFL contracts, Andrew, are so fake. Apparently, it's. I was reading it today. I didn't read the full breakdown. I think Mike Florio had it. But like the last 2 years, Ty, really appreciate it, man. Thank you. The last 2 years of that are basically like 1 year options. So there you go. I mean, that's it. And yeah, Crosby's a little younger. Crosby's also been better. He's more disruptive. He's more impactful. Trey Hendrickson isn't as versatile. He's not as good against the run. Is probably a better pass rusher. No doubt about that. Trey Hendrickson's an elite pass rusher. And he's a really, really good player. And he's still really, really good. I don't care what his age is. Everyone's saying, oh, he's on the wrong side of 30. I'm on the wrong side of 30. I think I'm in my prime. All right. So I get where Trey's coming from. And he should get paid. And he should want to get paid. But this idea that, oh my goodness, like 35 million, like I get it. Like if it's reached that level, which Ty mentioned in his super chat, then I get why the Bengals would balk at that. Not defending the Bengals though, because I think it could get done. And I think a lot of these deals could get done. And really should get done. Trey, Jamar, T. And it doesn't feel like Trey's going to get done now. It feels like he's probably going to get traded, which that's a tough pill to swallow for sure.
Let's give Ice a shout out. He's already
Nice man.
he's already campaigning in here, asking us to jump on a show, but we'll plug it here. You're on at 5:30. I don't know. I've already done too much for the day. Ice, we'll see.
Ice, I can't do 5:30. I've already gone 15 minutes more on this one then, but I will come on soon. I promise. I promise I will. I know you've been on me. I promise, Ice. I will come on soon. Myles Garrett for Trey, straight up. The Browns would laugh. Myles Garrett's going to cost a first rounder plus something else. I don't think it'll be 2 ones, but first rounder plus.
This one, really nothing wrong. I'm not attacking top tactic fishing here, but like that question makes me the fact that question can even be asked makes me mad, because it's like they don't need this. It shouldn't be easier to sign T. It's already fine. They could sign T.
Yep.
Again, not against you for asking that question. It's just, I know that's a fair question. A lot of people ask it, but
well, what's interesting is he's right.
Right.
Like it is.
Then it should be done immediately if they were to trade him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things, I would say, where I don't know. To me, I hate it because we've done so many of the, oh, well, they could trade T and get a guard and another pass rusher. And it's like, or they could just have everybody. Right. And same thing here. It's like, oh, well, it does help keep T, and it does theoretically, but they could have just had everybody. And don't you want everybody? Of course you want everybody. So yeah, this is a lot of guys are probably scratching their heads right now, including Joe Burrow. And he's probably not happy. And I do wonder how he's going to react to this stuff behind the scenes, because we've seen what he said in person. And so now, like, behind the scenes, what does he do? How does he react? Is he calling like, hey guys, like what he's probably calling Trey. Hey man, how you doing? I want what's best for you, of course. What's going on? You know?
Yeah, they
one
have
of those
little
things.
Get-togethers, backyard hangouts and stuff. I'm sure they're talking.
All right. Let's get a few more here and then we'll get out of here. Plenty of live streams coming your way, folks. Whether it's more breaking news today, tomorrow, the legal tampering period is on Monday. Please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Ring the bell, because you'll get notified when we do go live, because we never know when we're going to. This was very unplanned. And make sure you check us out on audio as well. Apple, Spotify, and on
all right, we'll go
Amazon.
Quick rapid fire. This will be fast.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw this one earlier. Maybe I was, or I was just trying to read through the comments and do a little admin work on the side.
Both.
Yeah, both. Here's another one here. This is interesting. It's a little bit of a hybrid of what we already talked about, but I guess I bring this up because it's yeah. Are we, he's talked publicly. The team has acknowledged they're aware that he's talked publicly, front office at least, and coaches.
Duke last week said,
we don't know, but
Duke said last week, yeah, I treat it as a partnership, but I don't try to do his job and he doesn't try to do mine.
Exactly.
Maybe Joe should do. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
Let's get this one out of the way. This comes up, I feel like, each time.
I hate it.
Don't go on a long, not a long rant. Address it though. Let's just nip it in the bud, right? Like,
Joe Burrow is underpaid. Dak Prescott makes more than Joe Burrow. Is that enough? Do you want me to do more?
No, it's spot on. Make it
stupidest thing ever.
Put it in your second edition of Enter the Jungle, the book. Add another chapter.
Joe Burrow was always underpaid every year of his career, and he's the reason why the Bengals are awesome right now. Like, what are we talking about?
Insert the Tiger King. Never gonna financially recover from this.
The Bengals could give Joe Burrow the $30 million that they plan on giving Trey Hendrickson, plus what he's set to make, and it would just be properly paid then. Do we know how much value he is to the franchise? He's up their franchise value by billions. They're so much more relevant with Joe. Like, come on. It revolves around Joe. That's why everyone's asking how Joe feels about this. And guess what? He is not happy. And no, there's no way he was like, yeah, you guys should give Trey permission. And if he did, it was because he's a loving teammate. He would probably say, just pay Trey and keep him. Can we do that, please? That's what he would say.
Speaking of this comment, I feel like I'm never going to recover from having flashed up that last one about Joe Burrow taking up too much money. No, I just pulled this one up because I mean, this is a theme. I feel like going into this offseason as we're living it right now, this is like, for me, at least, it feels like the offseason because the Bengals are challenged with past success and potential success, current success with, a franchise quarterback and, an elite wide receiver, potentially two amazing wide receivers. Like, yes, this is going to be one of the more fascinating off seasons to me. It's either going to crush me or either way, I'll be fascinated. We've got another one from Antonio here. Enough change for the year, maybe. I'm not sure what that question implied. What? Antonio, unless you got that one, James, post up another one if you want to clarify on that one.
Yeah, clarify that, Antonio.
Appreciate it, but we do want to answer it.
I'm very. It's the whole process is. Yeah, Trey Hendrickson's under contract this year, sure, but he needed a raise. He needed to get more there. I will say this as far as the Bengals front office and long term. There are very real scenarios where they do not recover from this if they don't get it right. And getting it right has to mean now, like if you're trading Trey, getting it right means signing T, signing Jamar, adding significant pieces on defense and free agency, significant. And maybe that's what they're planning on doing and why they gave Trey that trade request.
He was clarifying on this one. Enough change that they've been out of their, comfort zone for too long.
Well, I'm gonna try to find the original now and read them, put them together. Oh, there we go. Enough change for the year. Maybe next year, son. Look, they got to get all the way out of their comfort zone. They just do. Comfort zone is how you become stagnant and stale, i.e. 2017 Cincinnati Bengals, 2018 Bengals, 2016 Bengals. Stale, didn't work, doesn't work. You got to avoid that now. You had your run, and now you're trying to recalibrate it and still be a Super Bowl contender. And that means big changes. Like, they better be, the more I think about this, Andrew, I almost cussed. They better be extremely aggressive on the edge and defensive tackle market next week. Like, multiple guys. I was expecting them to add one defensive tackle and one defensive end. And then you go on the draft and do. If you're trading Trey, you better be using that. There's no edge like Trey in free agency. So you better be either getting two edges and a defensive tackle or two defensive tackles and an edge. Like, you better be spending, or you're getting the top two, which, again, I've talked about a ton on this stream. Milton Williams, man, if they could do that, get Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, all right. I get it. You get a pick for Trey, you get Milton Williams, you get a Josh Sweat, and you keep rolling. I would be shocked if that happened.
It's first of all, FB again here. If we resign T, can we make it 5 years so we don't have to deal with? I'm going to answer this simply because I would love it, because I would love to not have to do another speculative video about T. Higgins ever again. I would love it. If, like, James knows, he'll call me like, hey, I want to talk about this recent development with T. Higgins. I'm like, is there though? Is there another recent development? What else can we say at this point? They sign him or they don't. And I know that's oversimplification. I understand there's nuance to it, day in and day out, week in and week out. But I would love if we didn't have to do another T. Higgins video speculating whether or not he's going to be on this team. I would love it.
I'm about to call you.
Oh my God, stop.
You know why I'm about to call you?
I put you on speaker and then you tell me your video idea?
Hey, Andrew, we got to do a call on T. Higgins. We got to do a video here.
I really want to grab my phone like it was a reflex. Like
no, but I appreciate you, Fuzzy Balls. Yeah, I don't think that they'll sign T to a 5-year deal. I think it'll be a 3 or a 4-year deal. They better sign T. You better. Now it's 100%. If you
now
don't,
they got to answer
man,
to you. They not just Joe Burrow. I mean, just imagine.
You want those problems?
Any surprise rise this?
I mean, you have to deal with me. No, and we'll get to this. Like, keep it up. But I haven't looked at it yet. But you want those problems? I mean, Andrew knows you don't want those problems. I can be really.
Just let me document it, like Hard Knock style, behind the scene. You on the phone having those conversations. Then I'm all for it.
Chris, thank you. Holy moly!
Yeah.
Any surprise rise this camper? This came the day after all the reports that the Bengals players are maybe playing a little more hardball than thought, or just Bengals going to Bengal.
Bengals going to Bengal.
Yeah, I think the timing's super interesting to me because Trey Hendrickson reportedly came up. He lives in Florida, came up, talked with Bengals brass. Obviously, you have the Maxx Crosby deal yesterday. Legal tampering period is Monday. Like, if it were planned and the Bengals were like, you know what, we should probably trade Trey. This is the time you would do it. I will say that if you were going to do it, this is the time because you want Trey's money off the books by Wednesday. Certainly by Monday, but definitely by Wednesday. The legal tampering period begins Monday. Wednesday's when the new league year begins and cap becomes a real thing. So I would say by Wednesday, you would want a deal in place for Trey. And so that part is interesting. I think the Maxx Crosby deal yesterday is a factor. I don't think they were that far apart. Like, that's what I mean. Like, everyone said they were far apart, and I think it was like a couple million that they were apart on. And the only thing that I could think of with Trey is because he's accepted the Bengals guarantee structure in the past. So unless he just has a huge issue with that now.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, maybe. But he's accepted it and really appreciate the super chat there. I don't understand why it would have reached this level without maybe the Bengals being, let's go this route. And if they are, and if they pivoted that way, and if they're choosing to do this, they better know what they're going to get for Trey, because you're going to have to move quickly here. You want this done so you can use that money for the Josh Sweat, Milt Williams combo. See, I'm setting the bar really high. The standard is the standard. It's always the standard. However you want to do it. How do you win a Super Bowl? You win a Super Bowl by having a really high-end players. And if you're going to turn Trey into a first-round pick and 2 high-end players in free agency, fine. But you better get high-end guys.
What was Maxx Crosby? 90, 91, 92 million guaranteed? I was just curious. I was just trying to remember. I'm not making a point here. I was just trying to recall. I'll have to look it up.
No. It was less than that because his deal, like the final 2 years of that, it was only
it was like new money. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was like rolling. It's a fake deal. Maxx Crosby might be a Bengal in 3 years.
Let's address a few of these real quick. The behind stop. This Al Golden. Yeah. In your experience, reports in the past, I understand it's a new defensive coordinator, so who really knows? But what do you anticipate? What do you think's going on when they're having these discussions? I imagine it doesn't even hit him up to this point. Like not directly to where there's any say in the matter. I mean, what can he do?
Correct. I think it's all correct. I don't think there's a scenario where Al Golden's like, yeah, I don't want to have Trey. Why the hell wouldn't you want Trey on your team? Of course you would. Now, would he say, hey, he's not the greatest run defender. He's a good sack pass rusher and he gets his sacks, but anyone can bring down Desmond Ridder against the Raiders. Like, you can pick apart Trey's 17.5 sacks last year. You can. Right. Believe me. But come on now. Like, there's no way Al Golden doesn't want Trey on the team. And so, no, I'd be shocked if he was a part of this to that capacity.
First of all, I don't want to be in the front office. If I'm in the front office, it's going to be like fan outreach and helping with like making a great experience for the fan base. Like, I would love that role, but yeah, maybe I'd be James knows this. He'll float scenarios my way all the time, whether it's in fantasy football trades or actual NFL trades. And like, I'll either try to talk him off a ledge. I can't really force something one way or another, or I'll completely like veto it. And he knows if I veto, like, I'm dead serious because it doesn't happen often.
Yeah. I would love to. Antonio, I love to. I would love to. I love the team building aspect and all that stuff. Obviously, NFL people would laugh at me, but no, I love it. So yeah, it's why I love doing this and I love this time of year.
Story of Cincinnati sports fandom right there.
Oh, Kyle.
Another year.
My Bearcats. I really love this hat, so I keep wearing it. But it's not because I'm proud of it.
UC represented here, but
no. See, that logo sucks. This is the logo. Baby.
I got this at the Cotton Bowl. It's a story behind it. I'm not going to share. This will be a story I'll share for like a bourbon night. We haven't done that really this offseason. We'll do that eventually.
No, we won't. We're going to do that after the draft is when we're going to do that.
I'm seeing a lot of these, and thank you, Eugene, for bringing it top of the list here. But we know we know. I know this is what fans are either afraid of or they're saying when they're angry. I feel like there's no in between. And if I'm the Browns, why would I? But
yeah.
I mean,
All right,
it's
we
like
have
my legacy.
Let's take a couple more here. Oh man, definitely any super chats. I know I've been a lot on X, but I promise not directed at you both directly. Appreciate all of you do it just fresh. Oh, Jacob, appreciate you. Oh, appreciate you. Thanks for the super chat and the support. We'll see. The beauty of
the
this,
comments on YouTube too. A lot of venting, and that's partially what we're
it's part of it, man. By the way, I love the passion. Even if I disagree with something, I love the passion. That's not part of it. Well, we all have our opinions. That's great. But by the way, there's going to be people that think that they should trade Trey, that they should have traded Trey the whole time, and that's it.
I'm just flashing.
Everyone liked the video. Yeah, everyone liked the video. All right, we got all the super chats out of the way.
Can Jake be more involved in the streams?
Yeah, we can.
I mean, sure. We didn't send out the memo. This was like a last minute decision.
No, Jake was actually recording. It's so wild. Jake was actually recording with Joe for Locked On when this was breaking, and they had to redo it. I was not at home. It was so yeah.
Go watch Locked On. You'll see a second run through. They had a dress rehearsal and everything.
Yep, exactly. So crazy.
Appreciate it, Clemens family.
Ooh, thank you.
In 2 cities, Katie. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. And I'm trying not to be too doomer about this just yet because, again,
by the way,
going back to what
Mike isn't the one.
Happened yet.
Mike isn't the one negotiating with Trey at all.
By the way, neither is. I've seen a little bit of stuff thrown at Duke, and that's another one where it's like
it's Katie and Troy.
Duke made it known he wants this just, arguably as much as some of the players want this to happen, or coaches for that matter. But
to a degree, I would say, right. but Katie and Troy are the ones negotiating the money.
When that money happen?
Well, it should happen by Wednesday. If they're going to do this, it's got to move. You got to move now. Like this is one of those things. Check. Yeah, it's got to move fast because if it's not going that route, and Trey's just
not the chat, to be clear with Jake's comment.
Yeah, and Trey's just a Bengal till April 1. Well, then you have his money on your books. You clearly didn't do my awesome idea, which is Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. And then you're just getting a draft pick for Trey, and then you're banking on young guy like trash. That's the nightmare scenario. So now, not only do you have to get T done realistically before free agency opens, but ideally, if you're actually going to trade Trey, you want to trade Trey. So then you can pursue, not that you can't pursue these other guys in free agency. They have the room. Just like with T, you don't have to wait, or you can wait. You have enough cap space, but you'd rather extend him and lower his cap hit so you have more money to spend and play with. Mm-hmm. Anyways, who am I? Who are you? That's going to do it for us. Buckle up. Plenty of lives coming your way. Like Andrew said, check out Locked On. I'm going to watch Jake and Joe after we get off of here as well.
And I'm not just saying subscribe. It for noise. It's turn the notification. I knew you hear it on every channel ever, but the reason I say that if nothing else during free agency, and then you could turn it back off if you want, because it could be 10 p.m. We did it last offseason, right, James?
Yep.
It could be 10 p.m. Something goes down. We will go live. And you could get notified that we're live in that moment. I see comments after we go live, like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys were live." Well, turn the bell. Just click it during free agency because you never know when we're
hit the bell, ring the bell. And until next time, for Andrew, I'm James. Thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Bengals Talk.